lot of country, a lot of media assets that can I turn on and off and come on with the keyboard. So I am quite fast now.
Right. So we are live now. We're Final Cut Pro TV live, and look who we have today, Alex Raccuglia from Italy, right?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me in your show.
Oh, absolutely. So you are like a nonstop machine for making these Final Cut Pro applications. I mean, you just put out, you're working on another one I saw, right?
Yeah. My first job is I'm a commercial TV commercial director, and I work a lot with animation in After Effects. But given the fact of the pandemic in Italy, video work is decreasing a lot. And then I started redoing my first job as a developer, and then I started developing a lot of apps. And this year, 2020, I'm doing a lot of coding because I'm doing less work as a video editor.
Oh, is that right? So things are starting to recover in the United States, but most people are working remotely, working from home. Is that the same in Italy? Is it people?
The global lockdown ended in May, and I started working in the office in June, and schools reopened 3 days ago. So Italy now is going back to normal, but we are the attention level is very, very high because we cannot afford another lockdown. We're very scared of it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right about that. It's like up and down, up and down. Things are getting better. Things are getting worse. I live in Maryland, which is north of Washington, D.C. and northwest of Baltimore on the East Coast. We're doing really good so far. Fingers crossed. The governor said the schools can open if they want to. They don't have to. It's local jurisdictions decide that. But the one good thing about, if you can say there's a good thing about the pandemic, people are accepting remote workers a lot easier, working from home a lot easier. Before it was like, no, you got to come in. Now it's like, well, no, remote working is like probably 50% or more.
Yeah, the same year in Italy. During the lockdown, it was the only way of doing work. As a company, we started doing remote work and completely 1 week before the government lockdown, and then we continued another month after the end of the lockdown. But we are getting a little closer day by day to an optimal world where when a person can work from home or in the office. I think this is something that will be true in 10 years, not today, not next year.
No, I agree. I know exactly what you mean. So, but the good thing, because I worked in Washington for a long time, 8.5 years at the National Archives, and before that I also worked in Washington. So I'm used to the pattern. I'm used to how to get in and out. I'm used to where to park and stuff. But still, I would much rather work from home in my own office. First off, when I worked for the National Archives, my hardware and software were restricted by what the government would buy. I was always I have bigger machines. I did HD before they did HD. I did 4K before they did 4K, because I'm not restricted by government on that.
That's great. My company is divided in two souls. One soul is web development, app development, and so their machines are always Windows machines, and they are not always top level machines.
Right.
Meanwhile, I am a video editor, and I work on Macintosh, and then my Macintoshes are very strong. And working remotely in app development is quite easy because file dimensions, file sizes it's very, very small in comparison to video production. And so the week before the lockdown, I fulfilled an hard disk with all the stuff that I should have needed during the lockdown. So 1 terabyte of data to continue working from home.
Exactly. So let's talk about FCPX Cut Finder.
Yeah.
Now, first off, where did that idea to make that app come from?
5 or 6 years ago, I was doing shooting at an event, pharmaceutical event. Each person of the panel could talk for half an hour and do a small keynote. And I had to shoot all the presentation, all the keynote, and keeping in the frame the slides, so I can superimpose them afterwards. And I always say to me, it's very boring to go through all the shooting. Was 5 or 6 hours of footage, and getting the right time when the slide changes. It will be very good if there's some application, there's some software that can identify changes in a small area of the frame. So this is something that remained in the back of my mind for a lot of time. And then during the lockdown, I started studying machine learning layers and frameworks from Apple. Apple gives a lot of power to developers for vision, for translation speech to text and something like this. And so I started a lot of studies about this. And I say to myself, this can be the right path to identify differences from one frame to another, because you're looking at me, there's no cuts,
right?
But if I do this, I move my hand in front of the camera. There's a lot of differences between one frame and another, and so I developed two algorithms. One quite simple that tries to simplify an image. It reduces 4 pixel by 4 pixel, and then confrontate the colors of one pixel to another, and gives a certain level. And if there's a lot of difference, because there's the end in front of the frame, then I use another algorithm based on Apple Framework. Apple Framework gives a lot of tools to try to understand what's in a photo. And one thing that they developed is a tool that can identify and measure the difference between two photos. It is used to get groups of photos. So, you shoot 100 photos one day, and then you can group 5 photos are the same subject, 5 photos are another same subject, the same location. And then I changed it, because I tried to calculate the differences between one frame and the subsequent. And if there's a semantic difference, so one frame shows us something and another frame shows something else, then I say to myself, this is above a threshold, and then there's a difference. The algorithm is quite simple. I developed it in 2 or 3 days. And then I worked a lot on the user interface. That's the most important thing in an application.
Absolutely.
And trying to balance default values. Default values are the most hard thing to do. You want a magic button, you click, and then everything is right. But you have to learn a lot to determine what is right.
Yes. So we got a comment here, and this is our first winner of one of the copy of your app, Limelight Muskoka. I own and love Beatmark 2 app from the same company. You've also now just won a copy of FCPX Cut Editor. So there's our first winner there.
Yeah.
Comment in there, and certain comments, if they're funny, if they're humorous, we're going to pick them out at random in award. We're going to give away free copies of the app. I will contact everybody offline, not during it. I can't do it during it. I got too many other things going on. And I'll send you a code thanks to Alex. Alex said, hey, give some of these away to your listeners. I said, okay.
Yeah.
My listeners love free stuff. So our first one's just been given away.
I think this is called marketing.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. I don't remember. Did I get copies of Beatmark 2 as well?
Yeah, I sent.
I think I did. I think I did. I think I gave them away as well. So that's pretty darn interesting. And then So when it's identifying the cuts, does it do it in your app? You just drag a video clip to your app? Is that how that works?
You drag a video clip with the cuts and scene changes to my app, and then you click analyze. It takes some time. I think that with the 2019 MacBook Pro, it takes for 1 minute of video, 1 minute and 10 seconds. It depends on the content. If there's a lot of cuts, it takes more. And then in the end, it shows you the lower part, yellow bars corresponding to the cuts identified. But I saw that I tried with a lot of footage. There's sometimes when there's a lot of change between one frame and another, but the scene is the same. You want to go and be more precise, and so I make appear a list of all cuts identified by my app, frame before and frame after, in list, in order of showing in the upper positions the most controversial. In the lower part, there are the cuts that are sure. And in the upper part, there are cuts that I'm not so sure that this is a cut, and so you can check manually.
Right.
And then in the end, you click export. It produces as an FCPX file. You drag this file onto Final Cut Pro 10, and then it has been added to your library. You can choose to mark the cuts with markers on the asset clip.
Okay.
Or have a timeline, a project with the clip with the cuts already done.
So does it require FCPX ML 1.9?
No, it works from 1.8.
Okay.
But I think it's very. You can use it from Final Cut Pro 10.3.
Really?
Yeah, it's a very simple format. There's no need for complex stuff.
Gotcha. I thought there was some requirement of something. Well, maybe it was. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, all this machine learning stuff given by Apple are available starting from Catalina 10.15.
Okay.
I hate this because a lot of clients of mine are use Mojave or even 10.13, but this layer is not available.
Right.
I tried to understand if there's something that I can use from Google machine learning stuff or Amazon's, but then I have to produce an in-app purchase application because all these tools are not free from Apple and from Amazon, and so I prefer to use a very total on the machine approach. And so the video are not sent to another server; they are computed on the local Mac.
Exactly. So Catalina machine learning is what's required. There's no restriction on version of Final Cut.
No.
Okay. So we have another winner here. Jeff, our bio says, okay, what do we need to do for a free copy? Jeff, you just got yourself a free copy. I'll be in touch afterwards with your code. That's how you win. Just say something in the comments and we'll pick a few comments out and go from there. So people, your website. So Ricky says free copy. Ricky says free copy? Yeah. Ricky, Ricky, I guess you're going to get a free copy as well. There you go. He also says, Ricky says, how do's? And then Jeff Orbayo says, I know you can make a clip shorter. Can you extend a clip once it's in Final Cut?
I don't understand the question.
So I guess when you import it into Final Cut, all you're doing is putting markers at the cut points. Is that what you're doing?
No, but you can also choose to have a timeline with all the clip already cut and at the cut points.
I guess he means, so if the cut points are they actually an edit where
It's like you use the blade tool for
Gotcha.
cutting. It's already done, but it's this.
And here's, of course, as our friend, he comes on her all the time. Gert says, "Do we need to wash the dishes afterwards in order to win?" So you've also won a copy. So there we go. It's that easy. Win a copy. I'll contact everybody. I have to look. I'm not taking notes because I'm in here by myself, but I will go back and rewatch the video and see who I said was going to award, and I'll contact everybody. Maybe if I don't have you on Facebook or probably on YouTube, one or the other, and I'll go back and contact you and send you a free code. Ricky says, thanks for the copy. Thanks, Alex. All the way from Italy.
Yeah.
It's nice. What time is it there in Italy?
Now it's 25 past 5 p.m. It's a very sunny day here in Milan. There's, and I try to convert. It's 90 degree Fahrenheit.
Oh, there you go. That's nice and warm then. Yeah.
Yeah, summer isn't over yet.
Okay. Well, our summer technically is not over until another week. Well, actually, it's going to be over the 21st. Ours is.
Yeah.
And we got comments that says, thanks both Alex and Richard. Thanks, Alex. Thanks you both for the copy. Same weather here as in the Netherlands. No, I'm not sure what that, a couple of these comments I'm not sure about. We have a few more copies. Johnny Lewis says, did I hear free copy? Yes, you did, Johnny, and you got a free copy. So I think that's 5. We actually have a few more, so we'll keep on giving them away.
But now you have to make the game a little harder.
Yeah, you're right. It has to be a little harder. So have you? I guess you've worked with 10.4.9.
Yeah. I started working on 10.4.9, and then I was planning to produce an application that can use machine learning to follow the subject in a video to do crop. And then when I was starting writing the app, Apple presented the 0.9, which has this kind of feature, and I say, okay, that's right. And Apple did this first, they won. But I'm a little disappointed that for the fact that the machine learning doesn't follow the subject. So if the subject comes from here to here, it doesn't follow. I already done the algorithm to do this, and so I say to myself, maybe in around Christmas or January, I can try to produce something like this. But I always say that, the Apple solution is not perfect 100%, but it is integrated in Final Cut. I mean, while my apps are outside, and so you have to export the timeline, import, produce, compute, and then re-export the FCPX and then re-import in Final Cut. So this is something that stops me. Maybe I can do the same thing for a mobile market, but I don't know. I am very while I am very confident in the pro market for Mac application, my apps for iPhone are not so great. Maybe are great, but I don't know how to sell them.
Sure. So what you just said was exactly when I saw the demo at WWDC, because they did demo that little feature on Final Cut Pro. They didn't say what version it was. They said this is a new feature. I thought it was going to follow the action too.
I think that they're trying to do the thing as quickest as possible.
Yes.
It is something that they can do afterwards, but because I try to think, okay, you have a person in here and you have to follow there. And so you have to put keyframes. And so you have to interpolate a lot of data, exposition for each frame, and to produce 2 or 3 keyframes and to have a smooth curve. And this is not so trivial. I thought about it a lot, and how to smooth curves, how to use less keyframes. And okay, it's feasible, but it's not so deterministic. But I know, you know, that the things I will do this for me is not for doing vertical video starting from
Right.
widescreen, but to produce a 245 video.
There you go.
I work a lot with vertical video. I started doing them 10 years ago because at bus stops here in Italy, sometimes we have a monitor that shows advertising. And so we shoot advertising for the TV commercial, and then we create a different version for this kind of media. So I'm not so fundamentalist. If video is squared, okay. If widescreen, okay. If it's vertical, okay. But in my art, I love cinema. I love feature films, and so for me, feature films are CinemaScope are. So
you and me both, absolutely. I just got an anamorphic lens for my iPhone 11 Pro Max from Moment. I got their Moment anamorphic lens. Once I shot anamorphic, boy, there's really no going back.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I really, really like that. So I'll have to wait and see with the next camera. I have a GH5. This is my main camera. And I'm going, you know, if I bought a camera today, I'd get the Sony A7S III, which I really like because of the low light. But I have to switch all my lenses over. And that's more expense than the camera itself. So I'm waiting. First off, I don't need one. I've been shooting 4K for years. Both my last two iPhones have shot 4K. My GH4, which I'm streaming with, and my GH5 shoot 4K. So I don't need a camera. But if I get one, I'm waiting for the GH6 before I decide whatever they're going to do with the GH6.
Well, you know, I'm becoming older and maybe wiser. And then I say to myself, never own a camera, always rent. I bought a lot, millions of years ago, the Canon EOS 7D, the photo camera.
Right.
And I did everything with it. And because I have a lot of Canon lenses. But today, if I'm forced to buy a camera, I will buy an iPhone 11 Pro.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's actually what I have. I mean, that's the 11 Pro Max, and I'm waiting to see what happens with the 12, because the only reason I buy a new iPhone is if better video recording.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I don't care about 5G and all that stuff. I really don't care. Not for me. I use it for better. If you have better video, if you have, like right now they have a 2x, 2 times optical zoom. If they went to a 3 or 4, that would be something I'd be interested in. Higher data rates on the ability to record natively. I know I have Filmic Pro. I have all of the camera apps, and all of them you can go up to 100 megabits a second. But I think in the phone natively it's like 30 or 40, something like that. So that would be something else. Better low light would also get me to spring for it. But we'll see. Obviously they didn't show it at the last Apple event the other day, Monday or Tuesday was it?
Yeah.
But that just means it's going to be in October. I mean, they're obviously going to have one. The iPhone is their biggest money maker of all time for them. It outsells everything else. So obviously they're going to have something in October. The question I have is, are they going to introduce the first Apple Silicon Mac at an event? Or is it just going to be a press release?
I think that we'll present it at a live event, because they spend so much time at WWDC talking about silicon and talking about this revolution. It's something that it's for their stakeholders. They say we do not need Intel anymore. We have our own chip manufacturer. So it's a statement for the market. It's not for the final buyers. I'm interested because I'm a developer. I'm interested because I'm an Apple lover. My first Mac I bought in 1993, and so it's something that I love. But I think that they will say something, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but they will do this. Even because NVIDIA just bought REM. and so they have to say something that can state, okay, we are here to stay. We are a superpower, and they are a superpower.
So do you think that purchase is going to affect Apple at all? I mean, the fact that Apple was once considering buying them, according to the rumors anyway, I guess it's not really going to affect Apple because it's just a licensing deal, from what I understand.
I think so, and I think that Apple started, but in the next year they will diverge always more from the original product to produce something more tailored on Apple needs. You know, the new iPad have a new chip, A14, that has a lot of machine learning cores. I think this is the next 3D. NVIDIA itself says we are more focused on machine learning and to produce 3D images, maybe in 720, to appraise them with artificial intelligence, than to use raw power. So I think this is the path they're going. But I do not have the crystal ball, so it's my guess.
So here's a question. We get this all the time. Any thoughts about native Final Cut Pro on the iPad? Now, this last event they had on Tuesday, and I brought this up on Twitter, they showed LumaFusion 3 times on the iPad. 3 times, and this isn't the first time that they've shown LumaFusion. They've shown it many, many times. All their events, whenever they bring up the iPad in video, it's always LumaFusion, LumaFusion. So to me, that says Final Cut Pro on the iPad's not going to be happening, certainly not in 2020. I mean, I think that eventually it'll get there, but I think the main problem, people keep talking about the chip in the iPad being in the new Apple Silicon Mac Mini that developers get. Yes. It's not the chip. Its iOS is a lot different than macOS, dramatically different.
Yeah, they share the same foundation, but when you develop apps for iOS, you don't have infinite memory. If you work on a Mac, you can use in memory, virtual memory, automatically. You can say, okay, OS, give me 10 gigabytes. I need them. Give them to me, and I know what I'm doing. In iOS, you cannot do this. If you ask to the system, give me 1 gigabyte, the iOS says to you, okay, you're done, and then it quits your application.
Is that
this
right?
is very, yeah. And so when I saw Photoshop on the iPad, I say to myself, okay, they started developing Photoshop when there were no virtual memory, so Adobe use our own system to do this. And Apple, I don't think Apple use the same approach, and so they have to intervene in a very strong and fundamental way on the OS, on the foundation of the OS, to produce a so big application like Final Cut Pro. Maybe they can make iMovie better, make it stronger. Maybe they can do a Final Cut Express.
Sure.
You remember?
Yes.
The Pro is out of today. I don't think it's feasible.
And the other thing is, I have over 1,000 plugins. Do you think the plugin developers are going to redo their stuff to run on iOS? I don't think so, or iPad OS. I mean, that seems like a major, major issue because I don't use 1,000. Many of the plugins I have lots of different elements to them. I use a couple. But still, what about the plugins that are on Final Cut Pro 10? So people were talking about the iPad, Final Cut Pro and the iPad. Maybe it'll get there eventually, but let me tell you something. LumaFusion is a great application. I mean, that's one of the main things I use on my iPad. And it has things that Final Cut Pro doesn't have. Okay? You can lock a track. That's one of the things. You have a scrolling timeline. Final Cut Pro doesn't have that. You have the ability to color code clips, right? And sort by the color. So if I had all my different dialogue clips and I made them all red, I can sort by RED and all those clips will come up in the browser. It has a little mini timeline under the viewer. It shows the entire timeline. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like a little mini one. It's just like the one on the MacBook Pro. Yeah. That's 4 things that it has. Oh, you can also lock a track. 5 things. It has a little mixer. 6 things. Final Cut doesn't have these things. So I like those things in LumaFusion. I really, really like. LumaFusion was developed for the iPad. Final Cut Pro was not developed for the iPad. It was developed for the Mac. Completely different. I'm not saying it won't get there. I think at some point it might.
I think that will in the near future, in 2 or 3 years, they will merge the OSs. They're done a lot in Big Sur to let the developers to produce one thing that can go on all the systems. And
right.
I think that the final goal is to do something that can use the power of each device. You have a keyboard and a trackpad on the MacBook Pro. You have a great large monitor on the iMac. You have a tablet. You have a phone. You have a smartwatch. But I think they will tend to produce one gigantic thing that can be instantiated in all the devices.
Now they've said they're not doing that. Multiple times, but they said they're not merging them. They may get similar features, but it still seems like Mac OS and iOS are completely different beasts.
They are different beasts, but not so completely. There's a lot of my code is identical from networking is identical. Multitasking is identical. AV Foundation is identical. You can produce a video player with a very simplified video editor using the same code base. They are different, yeah, but they're not so different as at the beginning.
Well, you would know. Yeah, no, as a developer, of course, you would know that. I just doesn't, it seems like they're so different. I prefer Mac OS by a large margin to iOS. There's so many things that I can't do. So Gary says 1,000 plugins, not 1,000 individual plugins. But if you open up all the plugin packages that I have, the plugins have 24, 30, 40, 50 plugins or instances themselves. So I'm talking about that. Like if I get a title package, it has dozens and dozens of titles. Because when I used to go to the inspector and I'd select everything, it would say 768 plugins, 850 plugins, whatever, selected. So that's what I meant, not actual individual plugins.
So they have to start porting Motion before Final Cut, because a lot of plugins are Motion templates.
So we have a comment from Ryan Swanson. How do you manage to hide the plugins that you don't use? Is that a feature that I'm unaware of? No, but it's on my top 100 requests for Final Cut Pro. There's no reason why we can't do that in the browser. Now, what I do is I do one of 2 things. Either I open the plugin in Motion and I immediately save a copy to in my case, it's RT for Richard Taylor folder, the favorites folder that I have, and I'll save a copy in there and put it in a favorites folder, or I'll do it in the Finder. I'll look at something that I'm using all the time. I'll go in the Finder, find the plugin, and drag a copy to that same folder. So that's the one I use more than not. But Final Cut should, listen, you can organize stuff in the browser. You can drag things into folders. You can make keywords and stuff. You should be able to do that in the Final Cut Pro effects and transitions place as well. To me, it seems. Does that make sense? To be able to organize, drag and drop, make folders in the effects browser and the transitions browser, because right now it's just the Wild West.
Yeah, I always search for them.
Right. The other thing is, put the search bar at the top of the effects browser, not all the way at the bottom. Half the time I'm down there and I hit the dock, and the dock springs up and stuff. So put the search at the top like it is everywhere else. You don't have the search at the bottom in the browser, right? You have it at the top. Put the search for the effects at the top too. Listen, we're smart. We're telling Final Cut Pro team what to do. They can do it just like that, right?
I think that when you try to produce an interface for an application so big, and they started thinking about two kind of people: professional editors, power users. They know what they are doing. They know how to customize, and then they produce the same thing for the rest of us. The people who are looking for an editor for the first time. And so I think it's quite a big challenge to do this, because sometimes if you show Final Cut Pro interface to a newbie, he says, I don't know, there's so many buttons, so many things. And I say to myself, no, there's too few.
Right. I agree 100%. I always talk about this. Logic has advanced preferences. Okay. When you open it up, it's simple. It looks kind of like GarageBand, but it has a preference to check on, and you have 6 or 8 other preferences underneath of that enable advanced features. So if you want the advanced features, you have them. And I think Final Cut should do exactly the same thing. Make it simple for those that want it simple. But like you're a developer, I'm a developer. I'm not a developer, but I'm a user. I want to dig in a little more, be able to dig in a little bit more. We have a couple more comments, and you're talking about the iPad, Final Cut Pro on the iPad, but I guarantee Limelight says that Apple has been making a run and gun editor that will be lean and perfect for a jump cutting together a rough edit, pun intended. That's called iMovie on the iPad for iPad Pro. But that's not Final Cut Pro on the iPad. That's like Final Cut Pro Express on the iPad. It's not Final Cut Pro. Yeah, they probably are, but then you have iMovie. They could make that more advanced. I'm not saying it's not coming. I'm just saying I don't see it in 2020, maybe not even in 2021, especially when you have something as advanced as LumaFusion. And LumaFusion can now export Final Cut FCPX XML, goes right into Final Cut. The other issue is, while they just solved one of the issues, well, they didn't solve it, but they certainly took a step in the right direction. The new iPad Air has USB-C connectivity for hard drives, storage. So that's one of the...
I think this is a good move, because I had to have a lot of different connectors. So if I like Lightning. I think it was the first and one of the best ones. But if I can give Lightning cables away, okay, that's right. I prefer having only one connectors, because I changed the computer, and so I have to rebuy all the dongles, all the adapters.
Exactly. When I got this, I got a Mac Pro back in December when they first came out, and I had to buy all kinds of dongles, because I don't, I have some docks. I have a couple of docks over here that are Thunderbolt 2, and my RAIDs are actually Thunderbolt 2. But of course, the Mac Pro, I have 8 Thunderbolt 3 ports. Oh, you're reconnecting there. There you are. They said it was reconnecting. Skype.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening, because I'm connected via Ethernet cable.
Ethernet, yeah. It's Skype. It's Microsoft. People don't understand that's Microsoft. So Limelight Media says proxy on the iCloud for the Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Yeah, this whole reworking of the proxy workflow in 10.4.9 is fantastic.
Oh my God.
It was such a big request. And all summer long I've been talking on these. I do a couple a week typically. And I always said, Final Cut Pro team, if 10.5 is not ready, give us what you've got for 10.4.9. And it seems like that's exactly what they did. They had these features, may have been going for 10.5, but instead they gave us 10.4.9 with some really good features. The proxy is fantastic. Oh, we lost Alex. Let's see if we can get him back here. He'll be back in a minute. There he is. There you are. There you are. Back. I don't know what it's Skype. Happened. It's Skype, I'm sure. So proxy media in the iCloud, of course, is great for everybody, but of course, if you're working with an iPad, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that the storage on the iPad is still too small. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. They will present a Final Cut Pro version for iPad the day after tomorrow. But I think they are facing a lot of more tough challenges to make Final Cut Pro still compete with Premiere, with Blackmagic, with Avid.
Right.
Once there were only one competitor, it was Avid. Now they have a lot of competitors and young competitors.
Yes.
For the YouTubers. You are a YouTuber. You don't know. You do not need 95% of the things that the Final Cut gives you. But you need this 5%, and you have to be strong, fast, and fast.
Right. So Al Warner says, is there a worry that Final Cut Pro will go the way of Aperture? No. Not at all. I've never been worried about that. Some other people have commented on it, but I've never been worried about that. So Digital Rebellion have a way to manage plugins. Ryan Swan says, search bar should allow for words to stay in search across effects to transitions. I agree. How many times have I typed a word in the wrong one, and then I switch and it disappears? The word you have to,
Yeah. It happens always.
Yes, I will do that. I mean, I do that all the time. Here's what I've learned. As a matter of fact, this new Facebook interface is horrible as well. I'll be typing something in, and I'll make a wrong swipe, and it'll bring a new page across, and I go back, and of course, everything I typed was gone. I always copy everything as soon as I type it, if I can remember. So if I lose it, I can go back, and so when I do a search, a lot of times I'll copy the text just in case. That's a good one. That's from Ryan Swan. iMovie will fade to black, Christopher says. So here we go. Johnny Lewis says, why merge the iOS when people are happy to spend money on a Mac and an iPad? Me? I got a Mac Pro, and I just bought an iPad Air about 2 months ago. I got one for $100 off, so I went and got it. I don't use the iPad that much. I read books on it, and I use LumaFusion. I'm learning LumaFusion on it. And I don't do much else. I use my phone and my Mac Pro more than anything.
I think that these devices are thought for different places. Use the phone when you cannot do anything else. But you're the desktop, you use a computer. And the tablet, it's something in the middle. And so I think the underlying operating system is not so relevant. Yes, it's relevant, but it's not so relevant in the larger scheme, because they can sell you one device for each things you do. You run, use a smartwatch. You're driving, use the smartphone to have GPS indications, or use a CarPlay. I think that there's no limitation on this, and they're working on glasses too. So
right, and a car.
I don't think so.
No, I think they are. I'm not saying it's going to be out in 2021. I think they're going to have a car, at least the way a car would drive without a driver, at least that stuff. I don't know if they're going to manufacture an actual car. They're working on something. I mean, maybe 5 years down the road or whatever. So we have a comment from Christopher says, so when shall we see 10.5? Any news since all the other updates? Listen, the fact that they gave us so much in 10.4.9, 10.4.4 was a big update, 10.4.9 was another feature update. The fact that they gave us so many features in 10.4.9 in August, of all times, they've never released a major feature update in August in the history of Final Cut Pro that I can recall. I'm thinking they're saying, hey, look, we need more time with 10.5. This will buy us some time. Now, the exception to that is the FCPX, used to be called the Creative Summit, and now it's called the FCPX Global Summit. That's going to be in November, and Apple is presenting. So if Apple's presenting at the FCPX Global Summit, which they are, they could show us a preview of something or release something around that time. Maybe they'll just show us the Apple Silicon Mac with Final Cut Pro. Who knows? But they should, to me, they should show us something new. But I would be kind of surprised if, at this point, since they gave us 10.4.9 and gave us all these features, which are great features, and a few bugs, but mainly the features, I'm thinking that's saying, hey, look, we need more time with 10 to get 10.5 out there. Here's something in the interim to keep you guys happy, which to me, that makes complete sense. And so I'm thinking now 10.5, maybe 2021. But we might get a preview at the FCPX Global Summit. That's what I'm thinking. That would be nice.
Well, I think that they will use the 0.5 to say, okay, we are now Apple Silicon 2 based. I don't think it's going to be a huge release. I think it's going to be a huge release for the developers because they have to bring one of the biggest app ever produced for the Mac for another platform.
Right.
It's a big job.
Yes, but Tim Cook has already said they're going to be releasing Mac OSs for Intel for years, plural, to come. So that means 2 years, maybe 3 more years of Intel-based Mac OSs. And the majority of Final Cut Pro editors are not going to jump on Silicon.
Yeah, I know that.
There's 2.5, they said 2.5 million seats. By now, there's 3 million to 4 million. They're not going to just switch and go to Apple Silicon. They're going to stay on Intel for years, the majority of them. So I don't think that 10.5 is just going to be, Apple Silicon based. I mean, it doesn't make, it's going to be a Universal 2 app, right?
No, I didn't explain myself too much. I think that 10.5 will be universal for Apple Silicon and for Intel. And so they will do for years and years to come, okay?
We got a comment from Ricky says, will Apple call you today? That's because of, I have a hotline here. I do get calls from Apple sometimes on the show. They did call, for example, this is of course not real, it's just a joke. They did call during one of these live streams a week before 10.4.9 came out, and I was talking to them and stuff. So that's very funny. So yeah, so I'm excited. 10.4.9. First, I want to say this: the Final Cut Pro team is doing a fantastic job. Yeah. It took a while to get 10.4.9, the next feature update, but you did a fantastic job. I'm not a big fan of vertical video, but I really like the way they implemented the social media aspect in Final Cut Pro. I really, really like that. So if I ever need to do a vertical video or a square video, the tool is right there. I'm not going to do it for my stuff. I just always shoot horizontal landscape. But if I get a client that says, hey, going into this, we need a vertical video, we need a square video, hey, not a problem. Not a problem.
In the winter, I have to shoot a commercial, and the client choose us because I say, okay, we will do the same, almost the same commercial for television and for Instagram, and I will shoot the stuff twice, just to get the right balance of the frame, and so I can produce the vertical video and easily. I do a lot of not rectangular video, not widescreen videos using After Effects because I do a lot of presentations for conferences. They use a very large backgrounds. They use these video walls as a backdrop but it is animated. So I'm familiar with with a strange ratios video. So vertical, horizontal. I have to know the physical device on which the video will be
Sure.
used. Because if I have to produce a video with this size, okay, to have a physical access to this device, so I can show
Sure.
things with the right sizes and right approach. Because if you're watching a smartphone, you are 1 feet away. If you're watching a television, you are 2 meters away. If you're watching on cinema, you are 10 meters away. And so, given this physical approach, you can produce different, maybe a little different, but different videos, different edits, because they can satisfy different moods, different needs.
I think that is the perfect way to do vertical video, rather than try to make it from a horizontal frame. I think differently if I'm going to shoot vertical.
Yeah.
I think differently. I frame differently, and that's the perfect way, is to do 2 versions. That would be ideal. But unfortunately, you go out and shoot something horizontal landscape, and then they come back and says, "Oh, can you make a vertical video out of that footage you already shot?" It's not optimal, but you can do it now in Final Cut. So we have a comment here. It says, "I don't understand why people are a sucker for punishment, paying a monthly subscription for Adobe Premiere. I'm not a big fan of Premiere, but it is something I'm missing out. Why are a lot of the industry moving to Premiere?" I think they're not moving to Premiere. I think they already have Premiere because they have Photoshop or they have After Effects. They're not buying the subscription for Premiere. They're getting it by default. I think that's the reason. After Effects isn't going anywhere. And of course, neither is Photoshop. They're both ubiquitous across all the industries. So they get Premiere for free. And since they get it for free, yeah.
I think the same. Because a lot of people using Premiere, they use Premiere because they have for free in the package.
Right, exactly.
I use Audition, by example. It's not the perfect audio software, but I like it, and it's going to work. I had to use Premiere. I don't like Premiere. I respect it, but I don't like it. But for me, it's always it's very. It's very. I'm very tired after a day of Premiere, because I don't have the memory of motion of my hands. I don't know where to do stuff, and so I have to look at menus.
Yep.
Meanwhile, in Final Cut, I mapped all the things with the keyboards, so I have my own keyboard shortcuts with 10 fingers. But doing this, I'm very, very fast.
Yes. So what I do, I customize my keyboard shortcuts on all my major apps. And it's easy to go back to the default. People say, well, what if you're going to teach it? That's fine. Just go back, load the default one back in. I keep my keyboard shortcuts in Dropbox, so I can get them from anywhere. But the other thing that I do is since I use Logic Pro a lot and Final Cut Pro, I try to make the same keyboard shortcuts in both applications. For example, Logic Pro does not have JK and L. My version does. My custom version in Logic, I use JK and L because I use it all the time. Zoom in and out are exactly the same on Logic and Final Cut Pro for me. Deselect is another one I use all the time. That's also the same on both apps. And there's another one, Ripple Delete in Logic. They have ripple left, ripple right. So I use that a lot. So I delete something and it automatically closes up, like the magnetic timeline. So I have those. I try to make them as much as I can in parity across Final Cut Pro and Logic and any other app that I use as well. So going forward, it seems to me that 10.5 is going to be a huge, huge update. And I'll tell you why. 10.4 is approaching 3 years at this point, which is the longest by far of any version of Final Cut. Now, you know, Apple changes and stuff, but it seems they're doing something that's going to be, I think they're changing foundation stuff. I mean, maybe that means they're going to bring an audio mixer in, a Rolls mixer or something like that, plug-in inserts, which we need audio work. Maybe they're going to have the collaboration that people have been clamoring for or something, but it seems something big is going to be happening with 10.5 that is going to be completely different from 10.4 and before. Of course, we'll have to wait and see, but I don't mind waiting. They gave us 10.4.9. That's fine. They did a great job with that. I always come on here and I just say how great the Final Cut Pro team is, how much you all are appreciated.
Yeah, I can use this microphone and your show to say the same quote, because they do a product that I love, and they continue improving it, and I think they're doing a great job. And it's not the main face of Apple website. I know that because for very professional, strong professionals, but they're doing the right stuff.
Yes, they are. When we go to the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit in person, I've been to 4 of them, 2016, 17, 18, and 19. The 2016 one, number one, is where I met all the people that I talked to online and chat online in person. I met Steve Martin, I met Brad Olson, I met Bill Davis, I met all these people that we talk with actually in person, sit down and have coffee with them. But going to the Apple Park and seeing a personal presentation from the Apple Final Cut Pro team is such a huge, huge highlight. And that first year we get into the theater, and when they started, they said something to the effect of, by the way, we're the public-facing Final Cut Pro team, the publicity version. In the back of the auditorium is the more of the team. And I turned around and looked back, and there's all these people standing all the way at the back of the auditorium, maybe a couple dozen. The people that you don't hear about, the people that are not forward-facing. So all of the Final Cut Pro team, you're doing a phenomenal job. This is from the Final Cut Pro community. You're doing a phenomenal job. Can't wait for 10.5 to come out. That's exciting. So Ryan says, how well does Logic work with a multicam from Final Cut Pro? I'm trying to hand off a Final Cut Pro project to Pro Tools editor with handles. I tried the X to CC, etc. Here's something that I found. First off, Logic was updated to 10.5 in May, second week of May. At that point, I was expecting, Logic's 10.5. Of course, we're going to see Final Cut Pro 10.5. Of course, we didn't. At that point, when I saw Logic 10.5, my expectations for what Logic is going to be were completely reset. Logic is not a post-production audio tool like Pro Tools is. Logic Pro is specifically a music production application. They've never said anything different. They've always said that's what it was. I use Logic to edit audio all the time, just, dialogue all the time. But it's not going to be Pro Tools. It's not going to be Pro Tools or even Digital Performer, which also does film audio. It's just not. It's meant for music production with a little bit of other things. I use it for my podcast. Final Cut Pro Radio, I edit all in Logic all the time. But it's not going to be that. So round tripping with Final Cut is, if you're scoring music, that's what it's for. Some dialogue, yes, but it's not meant for that. I was kind of surprised that 10.5 didn't have more features for film, dialogue and film, and instead it had none. Everything was music, beat creation, instruments and stuff. So my expectations were reset. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's what it seems like. So I don't think that unless you're doing music or basic dialogue, it's really meant for that. Maybe it'll change. We'll have to see. Have you ever used Logic?
Unfortunately, no. One good friend of mine uses it every day for music and for podcasting. But I never used it. I use other audio stuff.
You said you use Audition from Adobe?
Yeah. I use it for multi-track recording, but I developed a little application for audio cleaning and for audio editing. Sometimes I use them. Sometimes I use Final Cut for audio editing, for fast editing. But I'm not. Even if I'm a podcaster, it's 10 years I'm a podcaster in Italy. I'm not an audio person. I'm a video person.
Sure,
In the end.
I understand. So most people, when they talk about audio and Final Cut, they're all going, when you're doing film level stuff, everybody's going to Pro Tools. That's not going to change. Logic is not going to interrupt that. They're not aiming for that market. They're just not. They're aiming for music production. Now, I'm not saying you can't use it because, yes, there could be some round tripping things that could be improved. For example, something I found out when 10.5 came out is Logic. You can import Final Cut Pro XML 1.8 and now 1.9, but Logic doesn't export that. Logic exports, I think, 1.5. And the reason is Logic doesn't care about the video. All Logic cares about is the audio. So round tripping is problematic right from the start. It doesn't retain video information that you need. So that's a problem. But it's not what it's designed for. It was never designed for that. I mean, I was kind of surprised. I thought that 10.5 was going to have more features for film, and it had zero. Everything was, audio with just musician stuff, which is fine. It just reset everything for me. So Final Cut Finder, it's available on your website, which is what?
Alti.media, ulti.media. Yeah, I think that alti.media is a great domain name, and then I build my small company around that domain.
So, and you told me an easy way to remember that. It's multimedia without the M.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Altimedia. So that's very, very clever. Very clever. And people can go there and buy a copy of...
I always say to everybody, don't buy it. Try it for free. All my apps are free for 7 days with all the features. Try it for free and try if it satisfies your needs, or if it's okay for you. And then in the end, you can buy it directly there. The funny thing is that when someone like you or publicize my application, or in the same hour, you and the website fcp.co announced it, and then I had a lot of orders, and I say to myself, okay, all these people are buying it without even opening it. Okay, that's great. It's a great responsibility. And then during these previous 2 days, we fixed a couple of bugs, because we can we tested it, but not with not this scale.
Absolutely.
It was a very 1.8 version, 1.0 version, and now there's already 1.1 that fixes a lot of bugs, and it's stable and it works, and it's quite okay for me.
Very good. And what's the new app you're working on? Tell us about that a little bit.
And in the previous episode, in one of the previous episodes, you had a guest from Australia,
Ian Anderson.
Yeah, yes, he said that he liked a feature that Final Cut should tag and add keywords to videos based on content. The same thing that iPhoto does, but Final Cut does not. And I said to myself, this is a great idea. And so I started developing this small application. It does a free kind of analysis. One analysis is using frames to identify subjects. This is another stuff that Apple does with machine learning. And then I can catalog all the frames and then sort them by relevance. But I do other two stuff. I can catalog texts. So if there's something like this USB key on the frame, then it uses this text to add another tag. And then in parallel, in the last 3 weeks, I developed an application that can be used for audio podcast. You use an audio track and analyze it and transcribe it with the Apple Engine. Apple Engine is not perfect, and the transcription is not perfect, and so it's not usable. But you can use all the words from the audio to have something like a tag or 2 or 3 tags of the arguments of the audio. And so I can use this new application to analyze videos for content, for text, and for dialogues to give these keywords, and then the results are exported to Final Cut Pro 10 via FCPX ML. It scans videos, images, and audio files. It's working, and I think it's gonna be out in 1 month, and I start a small beta version in 2 weeks.
Excellent.
Follow me on Twitter to know when it can be released.
And what's the best place to follow you? Alti_media on Twitter, is that the best?
Yeah. For the multimedia stuff, that's the right place. So I know that.
Go ahead.
I know that I should use Instagram more, but I'm not so. I'm too old for Instagram.
I don't know what to do with it. I just put up pictures up there once in a while. I have all my social media is the same. Richard Taylor TV, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Instagram. They're all Richard Taylor TV. But Instagram, I don't know what to do with it. I put up some photographs once in a while, but I like doing video for the most part. So that's ULTI_media at ULTI_media on
Correct.
Twitter. Follow along there, and you'll see all the latest developments. How did Beats 2 work for you? How was that doing?
Sorry.
The app you have, Beats, the Beats app. Beatmarker. How is that doing?
Beatmarker. It's doing very great. It was the great success of this year. I started developing it. It's the version 2 at the end of 2019, and then by Christmas it was done. And so I worked on the website and the video, the promo video. I have the advantage that I'm a video editor and a motion graphic editor, so I can do all the things myself. And I think that's our greatest success by far, because a lot of people have to cut to the beat, and so I use it every day for all the videos I do. And the fact that it can mark you a quarter of the music, so you can you have a single measure, and then you can use this to make a song shorter or longer. I produce a couple of tutorials about it, and actually it sold itself because a lot of people search how to edit to the beat, to the music in Final Cut. Premiere has a plugin that does that, so After Effects, and nobody ever did this for Final Cut, and so I said to myself, okay, let's do it, and that's it. It's obviously is our most famous application, but I think that Cut Finder is going to be great number 2, because I didn't expect, but a lot of people need to find cuts in the video. So it was a strange year. It's a strange year. It's one of the most difficult years of the humanity. But for my software development, it was a very pleasant year.
Good.
In that area.
Good. So Christopher says, love Beatmarker 2, saves me hours. The last time you were on Final Cut Pro Radio was when Beatmarker 2. Beatmarker 1 came out.
No, for 1. Yeah. Yes, the version 2 is as another interface that allows you to mark directly and cut the music before sending it to Final Cut Pro 10. But I think that if I have to be honest, yeah, it's better, it's more powerful, etc., etc., etc. But it was something that made me do a jump, because Bitmark 1 was a very small product, and then Bitmark 2 made me more famous in the community.
Absolutely.
Famous, quote unquote famous.
No, absolutely. I'm glad to see you get the attention. And then the new version of FCPX Cut Marker, I wish they'd drop X. Don't you think they're going to drop that at some point? Final Cut?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Don't you think they're going to drop the X from FCPX?
I don't know. Maybe
They
maybe
did
for
from
10 for
well, they did from Mac OS,
a
right?
QuickTime.
For a while, it was interesting, and people, I know that you're supposed to call it 10, but I'm not gonna. When I see FCPX, I'm not gonna say FCP10. I'm not. I'll call it Final Cut Pro 10, but if I see FCPX, I'm going to say FCPX. When I see Xcode, is that 10 code? Is that Xcode?
That's
And
right.
then is it Final Cut Pro 10 ML or is it Final Cut Pro XML? So, right? I mean, there's so many instances of that. If you go on the Final Cut Pro website and if you type in whenever you see FCPX and you do speech, or you says Final Cut Pro X and you do the speech and they talk it, they say Final Cut Pro X. So get rid of the X.
I think they will call it Final Cut and Final Cut Pro, and
Yeah.
that's it. Here in Italy, everybody says Final Cut and stop.
Exactly. Alex, thank you so much, not only for coming on and sharing all your information about your latest application, but for giving the listeners the app for free. I think we might have got 6, on 5 or 6. I'm not sure how many. And I will contact everybody, or you can contact me as well if I don't contact you right away. And I'll send you the code courtesy of Alex, all the way from Italy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. I'm honored for this, and thanks to all your listeners and watchers. And I hope that 2021 will be a better year than this one.
Yes.
And I say ciao from Italia.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.